Hello, welcome back. So good to see you again. As usual, this is Becca going by Nightcat or Nightcat's Meow, most places online. And welcome back to another week discussing Linden scripting language. I promised you last week a look at how to make notices from objects that are a lot harder to ignore or that stand out from your usual message spam. Most message spam will just show up either in the general chat, which if you're in a busy area can get filled up really easily, or if you're dealing with groups, or direct messages, you'll get options down here. But your objects will really only be able to put it in the regular chat. So if you want something that's a little harder to ignore, you'd want something that would put a message up here, kind of like these drop menus, but not necessarily with the whole menu thing. And that's a big part of what we're going over today. There's actually really three things you can do with a drop like that. There's a menu, like we just showed here, which I probably should go into more detail with you. There would be a text box where you can actually enter a specific response back, and there would be just a bit of text, which is actually easier to make as though it was a menu. So I'm going to quickly look at bring this up here. That's why it wasn't letting me do that. There we go. Because I'd accidentally deselected the box. Silly me. And did not properly select in here. Text box would be the one for actually getting to send something back. Dialog menu is what we're actually going to base this on. That one is not going to show me the code I want. Here we go. All right. You have, for example, here, dialog with key the avatar it's going to. Get owner. String a message. That's going to be the actual message. For right now, we'll leave the buttons blank. And channel has to have something. We'll say -5. Get rid of that for now. Save. Now when we touch it, Rebecca Windows object, you have received a message. Now, how do you work this into some kind of a relay system? Or a notification for people that are working a given event? Well, you have the master transmitter. With your basic listen. And then a handler for the listen call. Region say. On channel, let's just assign it -50 so we have a channel. Message. Then we return to the receiver. Actually, we want to have it listen for something specifically from a named object. It isn't practical to know the key in advance. There are ways to do it, but it's not practical. Now, the first thing if this is going to be a system that takes a transmission from the master transmitter and can distribute it to anybody working a given event, which is the most practical non-roleplay purpose for it. And in RP, it's more about having extra attention drawn to something. So, in that case, there's not really any other filter we can do that is practical at this point. So, we're just going to automatically relay to a new command that we're going to make called dropdown message. And now we're actually going to create the dropdown command string message. We can go ahead and reuse that since it is not in the same scope as the declared message in listen. So it doesn't actually interfere to have it declared the same way up here. And we don't need the quotation marks around this one because it is already defined as a string. And it has a set thing for it. That is not a message I need to worry about right now. On to. All right. /2 test message. And there we go. It transmitted and came down with a test message. Any receiver in this sim that was set up to listen on that would have received that test message. Any message you want to make sure people see. That's the way to make sure that your message stands out. It sits there until somebody acknowledges it. It comes through straight away. There are other things that you can do with that. One way is to have it say you need to have people check in. You could go ahead and set up you could do a staff check-in thing out of this, which would be, it would mean the individual has to respond that they received the message. So the way you could do that would be you would actually give it a reply. Confirm. The downside is that this has a limited range. Any dialogue message like this will have a limited range. So what you would need is to have a further listen, because, and I will give you a demonstration of how this works in a moment. Alright, what this just did is if the channel equals or absolutely equals -5, which is what we have up here, region say -5 message, whatever it hears. Otherwise, put it in the dropdown. The only other channel it listens on is -50, and it only listens for the master transmitter. So, unless another object named master transmitter sends something on channel -50, it won't respond. So you don't really need to do much other filtering because all that other filtering is handled right here and by your 2 listens. You could even take this a little bit further. Take that listen and trigger it up here. Integer reply. This is allowing you to establish a listen that will be removed later. Reply equals and then down here we're going to give it more than one command, so we now need the brackets. You can get away with having only one bracket if you only have one thing to follow up on. So, or one action to perform. Forgot to put the parentheses in that. Alright, so now this has the ability to respond back. And actually, let's make that not a -5. Let's make that a -10. That way it can't wind up receiving it twice, because we're about to give this the ability to listen for it. Null key. Confirm. If Jan equals -10, and we're going to go ahead and set text over this prim to register who has confirmed their response. So back to handy dandy Google. We're going to also want to make sure that we have a list for this, because if this was an actual event, you'd have more than one responder. So we're going to quickly declare a list, reply, reply equals an empty list, and show reply, which we're going to create in a moment. Reply equals reply plus key to name get owner key who. then show reply. Set text. We're going to need to establish a string of names based on the list. So, integer I, for loops are great for when you need to run a number of iterations. You're not entirely sure. You just need to run iterations of something until a certain number has been reached, and you can even set it up to dynamically determine what that number is. I equals 0. I is less than get list length reply, and I equals I plus 1. You can also do plus plus, but personally I think plus 1, it's just clearer. It's no ambiguity. And we're going to need to have a special string in here. Who equals who plus. In fact, going back up here and setting string who equals blank, that means when it's first created, it has nothing in it. Who equals who plus, and then we'll enter the list to string reply I. If I'm remembering the syntax correctly, basically list to string means make a string out of the specific entry for reply. Let me, in fact, go ahead and double check that. It's a good habit to get into if you don't remember something exactly. Just pop into the wiki and check it out. List to string. Yep, source and then integer index. I did remember it correctly. Plus /n. What this does is to add a line break. If I remember correctly, it is the / and an n. If not, it's the \. What this will do is the string who will then take the first entry, because it's a computer run list, the first entry is 0, the first entry in the list, it will put that on a line, it will add a line break, and then if that isn't the full length of the list, it will cycle through again, add the next name, and the next name, and the next name, until it has the entire list that will pile up on top of the transmitter print. So, the text we're going to set is who, vector color. Let's make it simple and just go white this time. Float alpha 0.0. All right, that all should work. There's a lot of moving parts. It's not impossible that something will go wrong here, but let's check it out. Confirm. Not seeing anything there. All right, let's see if we can find out why. Let's start over here. Actually, let's start with this one. debug, owner say, message. All right, that will confirm every message that this box is receiving. All right, the master transmitter got the message test. It did get the message confirm. So that means our individual transmitter, the one that sent the confirm, the master transmitter did receive the confirmation. So what that tells us not only is that everything in that is working, but the listen over here is working correctly. So the question becomes if there's anything that's not going correctly down in here. So let us make this tell us what the list is. Actually, that may have been what I did right there. Let's find out. Yep, that was all I did. Kind of silly. I set the alpha to absolutely transparent instead of absolutely visible. Also, when I said it could be either the forward or the backslash, I have a tendency to forget which. It looks like I might have messed that up too. Because you see right here, it actually shows the backslash. I changed it now to, or I'm sorry, the forward slash. I changed it to a backslash. There we go. If I had multiple of these, that should pile up. And to show that actually piling up, we are going to make this respond more than once. Wait, 0.5. There we go. Because I don't have multiple of these to receive, there you go. So, if you're hosting an event, you can give these out, so you can send out a who's here and on call, and you can get a list back of one of your people who's willing to respond to something. If you're hosting a role play event, you can have people choose whether or not to respond to a given thing this way. So there's multiple uses for this, and it shows you a couple of interesting bits of technology there. Now, I did promise to go ahead and show you the other kind of text box you can get. Actually, let me just create an entirely different one for this. Key avatar. Bring message. Forgot the quotation marks. And integer channel 0. This will actually show you a nice little something relevant to your text here. Notice how it gave my avatar saying testing. That is actually a nice little trick you can pull. Anytime that you have a menu like this, or the special coded response, whoops, there we go, like here, it always, as far as SL is concerned, all of those responses are going to come through as your avatar saying it. The menu response here, when you hit confirm, it is effective of, sorry there, had a bit of a sneeze. It is effectively your avatar saying on the specified channel, confirm. That is why you can set a menu to respond to get owner. You can also, in the case of a share like this, when you click on it, you can establish a listen, which will have the key of the person who touched it. How you make those variable listens is just like up here when we created reply. When the drop menu goes off, the first thing it does, it establishes reply equals that listen. If you needed this for an object that could respond to multiple people, instead of something that would always respond to the same person, you can easily set it to be created in a touch. And then set this as detected key 0. That would then open up a listen that would respond specifically to the person that touched it. In fact, we may deal with a little bit of that another time. Next week's tutorial, I got a request about message boards. So next week's tutorial is specifically going to focus on message boards. I want to go ahead and thank you again for making that request. It's actually a lot of help for me when you do. So thank you very much, Jay Sparrowtree, for making the request. I will go ahead and cover that next week. In the meantime there, thank you all for watching. I really appreciate and for the people who have been leaving comments, thank you so much. That means the world to me. It is the proof that this is of use to people is always something I really value. So, as usual, I try to have these videos up every Tuesday by noon Eastern Standard Time. So until then, good day, good luck, and happy coding. See you around.